welcome back to another collector's discussion. Today we have pretty exciting news for horror fans. We have Sideshow's 1/6 scale Pennywise, the Tim Curry version. Probably my favourite interpretation of Pennywise. And that's nothing against the Skarsgård version because, you know, I do have the InArt version there and I am excited to pair this one up in the mod case up there with these two versions of Pennywise. But I've always felt like this is more what the book represented, the world and the character. And also I'm a pretty big Tim Curry fan, you know, he's a very versatile actor and a lot of stuff that he's in, he's very interesting as an actor. I don't know how you could go from Home Alone to this, you know. And also I want to show my appreciation to Sideshow lately because I feel they were kind of on a decline with the 1/6 scale figures, to be honest. And I feel the last 3-4 years they've kind of found their sweet spot and they're really honed into that and have really made some pretty good stuff. I have heard some horror stories, no pun intended for this, but their older runs of figures were pretty disastrous. My first figure from them was their Leatherface, the Pretty Woman, and I have had no problems with that, joint wise and paint apps wise and all that. So I feel that they have generally gone better as the years have gone by. And going by their recent 3 horror figures, which is the David from Lost Boys, Beetlejuice from Beetlejuice, and this, it looks like they have found their sweet spot, which is horror. And I only hope for them to do more characters from different horror lines. You know, I know they tackled Jason and Freddy back in the day. I feel now is probably the best time to redo them. As much as I'm not a Jason fan, I would love to see the upgrades they can do with that character. Me being a massive Freddy fan, I would love to see a Freddy that is represented from an actual movie and not kind of a mix match from different stuff like their previous attempts. And also, I'll get into the photos, but I feel they've hinted a potential figure they're going to do in the future that is Stephen King horror related. So, enough of my rambling. We'll get straight into the photos. So if you do enjoy this, make sure you like and sub. And we get right into them. So we obviously got the classic waving pose in the swamp area, I guess you can say, with the balloons. And it's a really nice backdrop diorama type thing that they've got going on here. I kind of got tricked with their David figure though, that I thought you got that magnetic style display base, and it turns out you don't get that. You get the hexagon, regular, kind of lackluster base. I think you do get that pretty disappointing base with this figure too, which it is disappointing because it is an outdated look to figures. I would love to have a diorama display like this, or even just a simple swamp base. Just something to represent this film. But that aside, I do really love this. And I do love that they've gone rooted hair with this. I think for this particular character, you can't really go wrong with the rooted hair. It's a clown wig. So being messy out the box, if anything, is going to help that. Because this version of Pennywise especially was pretty rough with the hair and all that. It was kind of all over the place. So I'm fine if it comes even more disheveled than this. This is probably a bit too pristine in my opinion. The tailoring looks good. The neck ruffles look pretty accurate. The kind of weird glitter type overcoat he wore is pretty good too. Something about Sideshow, I love their tailoring with the figures I do have. I do have their Pretty Lady Leatherface, and their tailoring to the suit and the pleats and all that is pretty good. It's probably on par with some of Hot Toys' suit tailorings. So I've got no issue or concerns about the tailoring. It's generally more the head sculpts that is the concern for most people. But I do think Sideshow have updated and upgraded their artists, and I do believe this is probably a Yixi sculpt. For people that don't know, Yixi is a freelancer who kind of does Probably some of the best 1/6 scale sculpts out there. And Yixi has done the Beetlejuice and the David from Lost Boys. So I assume he's gotten hired again to do this because this is stellar work. You know, this looks exactly like Tim Curry under the makeup and the prosthetic. And yeah, I'm just really, really excited for this. And then you got the pointing finger there with the angry monster look. So you get two head sculpts. You get obviously this look with the grimace teeth, and then the more smirking one. This is the same dilemma I have with this guy now, where I don't know what head sculpt to use. I think because I have my InArt Pennywise with the more smiling look, I would probably go for the more angrier look for Tim Curry, because I feel his expression was probably more scarier than Skarsgård in my opinion. Yeah, I think this is probably the look I would go for this version of Pennywise. And yeah, the buttons look pretty good, the suit looks good. The suit is very baggy and puffy, as it was in the film, you know. It is a clown suit, so I'm not expecting it to be completely form-fitting. Man, but that's a good sculpt as well for the smile. Because I love this one, how he's like pointing and laughing. Yeah, that's going to be a bit of a dilemma when I get it. But it's a good dilemma because it's a testament of how good these sculpts are. And yeah, I think with this particular Pennywise, I would have preferred more balloons. There's a behind the scenes promo shot of Tim Curry in that swamp area right where the sewers are, and he's kind of like tiptoeing in a puddle and he's holding balloons, and it's way more to this extent. I think Necker done that correct with the balloons and just how much he had in this film. You know, obviously we have Skarsgård that just had one. This Pennywise had a fair bit, and that was pretty standout. So I would love if we get maybe more. Or maybe I'll have to go on like Toys Anxiety or something and buy extra balloons. Something you shouldn't have to do, but I might. And yeah, this head sculpt looks really, really good. The teeth look pretty good. I just hope that this is as close we get to the final production. And I think that's why I've also held off with pre-ordering David and Beetlejuice. I feel I want to see David's sculpt first because that was the first to go up in this kind of revamped look of Sideshow figures. I want to see how that goes first, and if it is good, I might hop on the pre-order with these guys. I just feel Yixi did such a good job with those protos, and if he is doing this proto, it's just as good as the other two. I feel, again, I want to hold off just because a prototype does drop in terms of quality to some extent, and Sideshow is notorious for dropping pretty big. But like I said, Sideshow have done some good stuff that have been fairly good to prototype. Like I said, the Leatherface, Ghostface as well was pretty good. It was a bit inaccurate, but the prototype was that, and we got exactly what the prototype showed. So again, hopefully we get that with this guy. Yeah, I might have to go with this sculpt. Yeah, this is the classic pissed off look. I almost would love to have the display box, him kind of like creeping with the claws, similar to like the old VHS tape covers and all that. I think it's the poster too, where he's like creeping behind the wall. That's a pretty iconic look to have. So you got kind of mirroring the Hot Toys look here with their display base, with using the alternate head sculpt, part of the diorama type thing. Again, I would love if Sideshow gives us something like this. I doubt they will. I think, if I'm correct on the listing, it's the hexagon base, which it's fine with getting a base at the least, but I think Sideshow can do much more than that. And it's something like this, I mean, it's great for diorama pieces, you know. You look at that InArt Pennywise with that diorama base, and that stands out in the collection because it looks so much more premium with a diorama compared to just a glossy hexagon base, you know. We've got the boat, which obviously this is much different to the yellow one that is in the 2017 version. This is more honing back to the 80s with the black and white inks, but still looks good. And then this is the last photo, and this is very interesting because you get a scale of how the figure looks on some weird wooden hexagon thing, which is not the display base. I don't think it is. That's pretty big. I think it's just showcasing what it looks like on a tabletop or a bench or next to a couch. I think it's just a scale reference, this photo. But what's interesting is, if you're a Stephen King fan, there's actually quite a few Stephen King Easter eggs here, and I'm interested, is that to showcase that they're going to make some more Stephen King stuff. Like, you've got the 237 hotel number from the Overlook Hotel, obviously from The Shining, and you have the carpet from the Shining Overlook Hotel. So is that them hinting that they're going to make a Jack Torrance? Because that's very interesting if they do that. And the reason that's very interesting is Jack Nicholson is notorious for being very expensive and difficult to get a license for. I know NECA have been working or trying to communicate for years to make a Jack Torrance figure for their horror lines, and they've all pretty much failed. Hot Toys were lucky to do it with their DX Joker. So that would be interesting if Sideshow are able to get a more modern license for Jack Nicholson. You know, I had to go to the custom route and go for Balloon Man and find various other custom stuff to build my own. Interested to see what they do with this. If this Easter egg is to lead to something more than just an Easter egg. But yeah, I think overall, out of this Beetlejuice and David, I think David from Lost Boys and this Pennywise is probably the best bang for your buck, just because the Beetlejuice is probably last on my list. You don't seem to get that much with it. The accessories are fine. You only get one head sculpt for that figure though, and you don't get the tombstone diorama. With David and this Pennywise, the accessories are kind of there. You don't get a diorama base, you do get the hexagon base, but you get two head sculpts. So I feel these ones are much more worth it. However, Sideshow have voiced themselves saying that they might do some updates, particularly with Beetlejuice. So that might mean we will get some diorama display. Hopefully the tombstone. If they do, then I would have to get that, because I think you need something to justify the price, and I think the hexagon base is something that should be left in the past. It's too ancient for figures now. Hot Toys moved away from their circular display base. I think it's Sideshow's turn to move away from the hexagon stuff and just give us something that represents the character. And I think for Pennywise, just give us a puddle, you know, based on this swamp sewer scene, and that would have been perfect. Also, if Sideshow wanted to give the hexagon base and justify the price, maybe a third head sculpt with the acid burn look would have been really nice, and maybe some more iconic accessories too. This Pennywise had like some weird ratchet spinny thing. It's kind of like an 80s kids toy. It kind of makes a clank noise. Why they didn't add that to this pack is weird, because that was kind of a pretty iconic scene. It's also Ming to this day, so why they skipped on that is pretty confusing. But other than that, I'm personally going to get this because I don't feel another company will do it. And I think Sideshow have advanced enough to be a good company to buy stuff from. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I do generally hope the success from these Sideshow figures recently lead them to do some stuff that they have done in the past and upgrade it and update them. Freddy and Jason's probably the more popular ones that I would love to see updated. Especially if Freddy, I feel they kind of missed the mark with that latest Freddy they did in like 2014 or 2017. It was around that time frame, I don't really remember. But I would love to see something from part 1, 2 or 3 from Nightmare on Elm Street. Maybe also a actual accurate 96 Ghostface would be pretty cool. I know there is a bit of a licensing issue with the Wes Craven movies of Scream, not the Blumhouse weird shitty ones. But there is definitely a licensing issue or something like that, because if you look at all the Ghostface merch from Scream, they're merched as Ghostface as its own property, not as Wes Craven's Scream. Like the Sideshow Ghostface, for example, the NECA figures, they don't have Scream as an official license. They got Ghostface as the mask and costume, because for people that don't know, the mask and costume were made before the movie, and Wes Craven kind of done a deal to merge it. And that's why you've got Ghostface as a single property and not Scream. So hopefully we do get an actual Scream version of Ghostface as an official figure. And that might be the same thing with Freddy, I'm not too sure. Maybe Wes Craven just had a stronghold with his characters, because I do know after the first Nightmare on Elm Street, Wes Craven was very stronghold with his future characters, and Ghostface being probably his favourite one, I'm pretty sure he was very strong hand with that and not allowing anyone to take that license from him. But hopefully the Wes Craven estate are able to give that license out, Freddy, Scream, to companies like Sideshow, or hell, even Hot Toys or InArt or someone, just to do a great art piece based on a great franchise. But that's more wishful thinking for these other horror characters. But I do generally think that this is a great stepping stone for more broader horror characters to be made in 1/6 scale. And if Sideshow are going to do it, I think Sideshow have proved themselves for the horror genre that they do make good quality figures with their horror products. And I'm interested to see if that Easter egg is going to be anything in the future, and also to see what else they have installed with the horror. That's pretty much it for today. If you guys did enjoy this, make sure you like and sub, and I'll see you in the next one.